Hey, welcome to a new real estate roadmap podcast for another episode. Thank you for being here. I am Chris Cusimano, joined by co-host
Jen Konikoff.
And JD Sanchez.
JD's new to this. She's like, "Is that my cue?"
Was it not?
Yeah, it was. It was like I was just wondering if you knew, and you did great.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. So side note on that, I did a party foul. You never drink a carbonated drink before you go on a podcast, just so you know.
Oh, is it coming up?
Yeah, it was.
You're gonna be rude.
It's plus when you're in your 40s, things just don't stay down as easily. But that's besides the point. Today we're gonna cover. We're actually gonna cover what we spoke about in the training, the Coach by Cusi training yesterday, and we did a class about buyers. I call it the buyer lock-in method. I used to call it how to keep buyers from cheating on you, and the truth be told, I never did that class in that format, and I crammed so much in that hour, and I missed some things. And it's weird when you do a class for the first time and you don't know the timing of it. You're just like all over the place. Am I going too fast? Going too slow? Am I doing this and doing that? But be honest, ladies, how did you take it? Did you grab anything from it?
I mean, for me, myself, because I work buyers and sellers, I was able to grab what I needed. I also practice certain things that you do. I'm going to touch on some of the things that you talked about because I don't agree with all aspects
How dare you?
A tree.
I dare. But no, I took some great nuggets away for somebody. I think that that was walking in maybe as a new agent. Their minds were probably a little bit on the blown side, or okay, this was a lot, and I think we can just, in those mini meetings that we have, break down different aspects of it so they have a better understanding of how to grapple with those really cool features.
What Jen's referring to in mini meetings, before we continue on, with our program, the coaching program that we do, it's Tuesday, Thursdays at noon. We do group coaching, and then every weekday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That might change, by the way. We could talk about that possibly later, but 9:30 a.m. Eastern at this time, we just have these morning mixers. JD hosts a day, Jen hosts 2 days a week, and then that's where you really just break down things in more granular and ask more casual conversations. So just for some context there. But Jen, okay, let's dive into the bad stuff. Well, not the bad stuff. The things that you might think you would do differently, and then we'll dive into the main tactics after that. Cool.
Sure. Okay, so start off with the fact that I like that what you do, which I did the same. We come prepared, right, JD? Our job to, as we're showing properties, we don't just open doors, right? I hate when people think
right.
JD and I had a conversation with a friend of ours about that the other day.
Yeah,
all realtors do is open doors.
And
yeah. Okay.
It drives me insane that people have, because they might have just worked with someone that just opened the door. That might be their perspective, their perception, because they might have worked with someone like that. But that's not how we approach our business, whether it's a seller or a buyer, but specifically buyers here. We do a lot of, we work. We dive into the properties, the communities beforehand. And then if if it's a condo, that's a whole nother monster that you want to make sure that you are in the know before you even step into the property and that your buyer knows what's going on. So doing the research ahead of time, 100% agree with that. And I think you go a little over and beyond, which I love spoiling our people. In the sense of when people you just have to know your buyer. If you have a buyer who wants to see 20 houses in one day, I never recommend that. I believe there shouldn't be more than 4, but more than 20 houses, and they're expecting your full, cover sheet of HOA details, permits on each property, an evaluation range on each one. It's not like feasible. I would definitely have a conversation of, hey, of these 20 that we're going to see, we're going to talk about specifically, your top 4, your top 3, and then I'll be able to dive deep into those, just depending on the person. I don't know. I can't do that for one buyer that has pointless.
So let me kind of talk about what Jen was saying there. So inside of the training, or how I deal with buyers, it's a lot. I do a pretty significant amount of work ahead of time. I've always looked at it like we get paid very well for what we do, and Some of us, a lot of agents don't, but the agents who don't get paid very well are the ones not doing these extra things, I guess is a way to say it, right? If you do all these extra things that we're going to talk about in the next, 20, 30 minutes, you are doing what your competition isn't doing. And don't think for a second that these people are going to be loyal to you. Some will, but a lot of them might shock other agents. Actually, before we came on this podcast today, we all were talking about a recent experience where our clients weren't loyal to us, right? And we do these extras. So, to kind of explain that a little further, when we go out and show property, we do what's called discovery, where we ask a series of questions that kind of guide us into what's important and what's not, right? And based on discovery, let's say, for example, they have kids and schools and safety are a thing. So what we'll do is we'll go in there and we'll make sure that we not only find the ratings for each of the schools, but we'll dive in further. There's a website called School Digger, and you can get a little more information on the schools, a little more details other than just a grade with schooldigger.com. There's also crimemapping.com, where you can pull each house up and you can see where there's sex offenders nearby, right? Like, if those things are important because you have kids, that's great. Also, if your kids want to play outside, or if they're elderly, and maybe not even they're elderly, maybe if they just want to go on walks outside a lot, it's smart to pull up the shade of the area, like the tree equity score, and you can compare which section of this area has more shade to be more comfortable for them to walk in. Like, these little details are what the people get paid well in this industry.
Have you had somebody specifically ask you about shading?
Never.
Because I mean, that one little piece just makes me laugh every time you bring it up. Because I'm like, who has ever asked me about, like, oh, I'm not going to buy this house, there's not enough shade over here?
No.
Plant a tree.
no, it's never been a direct ask. It's been one of those things where they go, you know what, that's a good point, I never thought about it, right?
So you see it as like a little, like, added value, like a
100%.
Hey, look at, I went above and beyond.
Yep.
But okay.
And honestly, okay. So the house that I just came from one of my investment properties, and it's in a neighborhood that's heavily shaded. It's so gorgeous going there. I feel like I'm driving into like an old West Virginia neighborhood. I freaking love it. And then the house I live in now, at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's no trees. So as soon as you walk out front, I swear, like, I melt instantly. So I have an affinity to, like, this. That's actually, I think that's actually how I discovered the tree equity score, because I'm like, there has to be a way to know which areas have more shade than not, right? Because I want a neighborhood with this tree cover and the canopy. Like, we don't even go outside and play catch because it's so hot. And we lived outside in our own neighborhood because the whole streets were overgrown and covered, and it was always shaded.
Yeah, my street has them where they touch in the middle, pretty much.
Yeah, I love that.
A really big truck, it hits them as it's going down. And I'm the only house that doesn't have a single tree in the front yard.
Why is
Not
that?
by choice.
Well, it's like
when we bought it, the gentleman before us had, it was like dying, so it had to get removed. I was very upset by it, actually, because I love all the trees on the block. We're like the only one that doesn't have one.
The words of JD Sanchez: plant a tree.
Plant a tree. But Chris, I will say, it's just it comes down to expectations, right? So, setting the bar, of course, you're going to give them all these added values. You're going to show them why they shouldn't cheat on you, why they should be exclusive with you, which is fantastic. But the expectation of, let's hone down what we're looking for first, because there are people that want a property. They're not sure if they want to move to Lake Worth. They're not sure if they want to move to Pembroke Pines. There's a lot of scatter thoughts involved, which I think a part of the expectation conversation within the discovery call helps you really refine and get them in there. And this is just a part of the buying, the buying process elevated. Is just walking out there and be like, okay, let me open a door. That's just not the approach to take. It's not the effective way to do business.
Well, that's what our colleagues mostly do. They mostly just grab a stack of MLS sheets, and that's it. They don't even provide them to their client, right? And unfortunately, that's where we got that stigma of we're just opening doors for people, meaning that that the people are figuring out all this information themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's where that stigma came from. So if we can, as professionals for our business and to help others kind of elevate the game a little bit, maybe we can break that stigma. But I mean, good luck with that. But the good news is that's an opportunity for everyone who wants to take those extra steps. So kind of kind of add some more clarity to it, when we go out and show properties, I think it's always a smart play to answer the questions that they are going to ask. And every buyer asks these same questions, like, how much do you think this house is worth? How old's the roof? How old's the AC? What's the HOA fee? And what does it cover? That's what they always ask. Or how long has it been on the market?
Mm-hmm.
So those things I always cover no matter what.
Of course.
I pull the permits and all that stuff.
What you do too is you do like literally a cover sheet, and you kind of drop that information in there. Whereas I'm more of like, let me print the MLS document. I'm going to highlight, here are the days on market. Here's the square footage. Here's the original list price. Here's where it's currently at. And then I'll write physically, handwrite on there, here's our average. Because that's just how I do it.
Everyone has different style. I just like one page. I like it clean. And I'm high D too. I don't need to know the details. You know what I mean? I don't need to know like the tiny things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the acreage and the lot, not the lot, like what do they call it? The
people
township
wanna know
and
the lot
range.
size, for sure.
You know?
JD, do you print out the MLS sheet or do you do a cover sheet?
I do the MLS sheet, and like you said, I highlight the most popular things and then what I know. And I focus a lot more on the discovery phase, like you mentioned, because there's a lot of times that I might be driving to a neighborhood for no reason if I didn't ask the right question. Just recently, I had a buyer as a VA buyer, and there was certain neighborhoods that were not even condo governed. So you would think that putting low money down was fine. Well, I made sure, and I was calling management companies who were saying that 20% was required no matter what. Mm-hmm. So it eliminated a lot of the listings they wanted to see. It eliminated a lot of the neighborhoods. So it was kind of like I would have been driving around, they would have fallen in love with something, and then we would have hit that hurdle late in the game. So it was one of those, like, that makes sense. Let's get that information ahead of time. Pets are important, renting restrictions. Like, there's certain things that, like, I make sure in the discovery phase, and I can eliminate neighborhoods that way. Mm-hmm. And then, the MLS sheets, I probably don't dive as deep unless they're like, hey, I only like these 2 out of 150 I sent them. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to dig deep on those 2.
For sure. I always I never graze over the pet question. Ever. And not just you have pets. How big are your pets? What's your breed?
What's your breed?
What's your breed? And how big is your big boy? All right. We got a 35 pounder. We got a 50 pounder here because that matters.
It does matter.
Yep.
It does matter.
I have a pit bull, so it's very front of mind for me. I'm already like, I can't live in Dade County and I can't live in an HOA because chances are I won't get approved. Yeah. So, and as a matter of fact, Universal does not even let you have insurance if you have a pit bull.
Really? Look at that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why. Okay. So we haven't spoken about this yet on the podcast. We did in the training. So let's talk about this next part of the process. I've always, well, not always, but probably over the last, at least 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer. Oh, I know. We can have conversations about that. But anyways, I've always, I learned the hard way, right? And I feel like if there's no reason for people to relearn the hard stuff, they just hear from experience. So I'm going to give you a little experience here, especially if you're a newer agent, or maybe you've been in the game for a little bit and you didn't even think about this. But what I always do, and I say always, and I'm really stressing that, I always get them to either on the initial call, if the opportunity it presents itself or is available, to do an online search with them together, like on a Google Meet or Zoom, or I book that call. Okay, because how I used to do it and how I know other agents do it, someone will be like, hey, Chris, Jen, JD, I want to do I want like a 3-2. I have this, these are my criteria, whatever. And then you'll do a search, and then oftentimes it would yield very little or not what they were expecting. And then you have to have that call, or maybe it's a text, or go to the lazy way. Oh, I saved your search. I saved the search, so if something new comes up, you get an email, right? Like, that's not working for your client. And also, what happens in that case, they're probably like, this girl is not really doing what I need them to do. And then you might justify it in yourself, like, well, I looked for what they wanted, it didn't exist, but you didn't dive deeper, right? So I've been trying to get people to do the initial search for me. And I actually remember the first time I did this was in person at the office. I brought someone in that found me online, and we did, and I'm like, ooh, this was actually very good. I'm going to do this more often, right? And then I just kind of went the way of Google Meet now, or /Zoom. Anyway, so you get them on these calls, you share your screen, you tell them like, hey, no worries, you don't have to share your screen you don't want, but let's search together as a team. And then you go on the MLS together and you search together, and they can see what you see. So if you don't see properties, that or a lot of number of properties pop up or whatever the situation is, they see it live with you and you can adjust live as a business partner. I'm like, we are a team here. We are partners in this endeavor. It's important that we walk through this process together. And with my expertise and with your decision making of where to go, we're going to get a closing together. Cool? Yeah, great. Let's do it. Is this area good? Is this good? Is this good? Good. Oh, this doesn't work. Okay, can we get rid of this? How about if we search a little bit more east? How about, and you do that all live at once, because then it's like, why else wouldn't you do that? You're going to do the search anyways. You might as well just have them sitting in the co-pilot seat with you, right? Because it's their house. And they appreciate that, by the way.
They do. Well, it brings them into reality because everybody has this idea of where, what their ideal home looks like. Mm-hmm. And when you're physically going through the process and you're starting to filter out these must-haves that the buyers have in their mind, what ends up happening as you're doing it with them, you almost start seeing their faces kind of go, oh, okay. And it's registering, all right, well, there's some things that I can be a little more lenient on versus I must have, or it would be great to have. That kind of, you see the shift of mindset happen there as they're searching the MLS, the multiple listing services with you. Never say MLS. I learned this recently.
Yeah, because they don't know what you did. They don't know, you know what I mean? Like, they're just they may assume, oh, they just didn't work hard enough for me, or they didn't search hard enough, or they don't care that much. And that's a shame. That's a shame. So how do we get ahead of that? We just do it with them, right? And that's where the discovery call comes in. That actually, that we started this conversation with, where you asked specific questions during that search to lead you down to things like what JD loves so much: the tree equity score, school digger, RPR, crime mapping, rentometer, all those different cool tools that I use to do those things. So.
For sure.
All the rest are definitely great. And as a newbie to the team, when you guys mentioned this, I was like, wow, this is brilliant. Get online on a Google Meet, let them see what I see, instead of doing the back and forth that takes sometimes a week or two, depending on when they respond, when they actually have time to look at the listings. It's like you kind of knock it out of the way and you find out they're non-negotiables right away. And what does set us apart sometimes is most people give you parameters, and there's always a little bit of like an unrealistic expectation. They always want more than they can get for what they can't afford. So you're sending them stuff and nothing's really like resonating with them. Then all of a sudden you're on the discovery call that you're talking about, or you're on the Google Meet and you're going through it and you say, well, what if we went here? Or what if we increased the price to here? And then in real time, they're seeing, oh, if I go up 50 grand, I actually get what I want. Or if I eliminate a garage, I get what I want. And now they've figured out what they have to settle on, or what they have to give up, or if they have to increase their price to get everything they want.
Yeah.
So I really like that piece of it.
You're welcome.
It's money. Well, no, I think a lot of people took away some great things off of yesterday's training with buyers, especially in this, as we're working through these new parameters in our market. And I will say I'm excellent at segueing, my friends, as we're working through new Facebook parameters.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm multitasking. So you guys on the podcast, behind the scenes, I'm creating Facebook events for the training tomorrow. All right. Curate, write, script, curate, compose, record, edit, and post TikToks and reels.
Which is perfect because
level 1.
That's the social platform. We have some new parameters that we have to kind of abide by, which I haven't seen the hard things. I've just seen little blitz of it. And I realized that there was something changing in Facebook when I kept putting in a link to the MLS and it kept bouncing it back, or it would let me do it. And then when I would go back and click on it, it would say, sorry, this link does not work. So essentially my understanding of what's happening on Facebook is they're really trying to build a trust within the platform and trying to push out any external links. And then specifically with us. like MLS listings or any lead capturing things they're really trying to push out is one component
Yeah,
of
so
the whole thing.
on that, I haven't had any flags or anything like that in terms of real estate listings, and I'm still posting mine on there, and I think that's what it is, right? It's if they're trying to get a link to get people off of the platform, is that what it
Correct.
is? Is
That,
that
that's
true, or
that's
is
a
that
part of
It's
that.
cybersecurity.
Yes, it's about the
They
trust and
label it as a cybersecurity. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
no, it's exactly that. It's about the trust and the security of keeping, if you're trusting to be on Facebook, they want to keep you on Facebook without having people being quote unquote lured away from the platform on potential negative links.
got
And,
it? So
and the
that's what it's all about.
I I think the provider matters. Like I think Canva is a big one that's getting turned away. If the link is a Canva link.
Yeah, also landing pages. I did read that too. But although I will say, so I did a reel. I was working on a reel. I think you commented on it, Chris. And I used the Facebook green screen. I had a picture of our listing. Actually, JD, it was yours specifically, and green screen thing in front of me. I'm talking about it, and I tried to put our MLS listing on it, and it kept denying it. Finally, it went through, and then when I watched the reel and clicked on the link, it pushed the link out. And it worked every single time when I used it on a different browser. Like if I just copied and pasted that same link. But Facebook wouldn't accept the actual link. So it kept my reel. It just removed the link from my reel.
Yeah, but on that point too, it's like when you're posting your content. I've been saying this for a while, and Facebook's been saying this for a while. They don't want people really leaving their platform for any reason. Too,
And
they've always frowned upon it, and this might be just another way for them to justify saying like, "No, you can't do it." Oh, by the way, I'm such a squirrel. I just looked up and I noticed where my wife hid the Oreos, and I shouldn't. I wish I didn't find it. I was
are
looking.
you
Hiding
the
Oreos.
Oreo thief? Are you?
No, I've been so good at my diet, like, and then but like we bought this box of Oreos for my kids, like snacks for his T-ball team after, and then it disappeared. And I'm like, "Where is it, babe?" She goes, "Oh, I hid it from you," and I just found it. It's right there on top of the dryer near the ceiling, and I wish I
Hiding in
didn't
plain
know.
sight.
Right
Yeah.
in front of me. Don't do it, Chris. Don't do it, Chris. Don't do it, Chris. Don't do it, Chris. High school reunion.
Uh,
But what were we
All
talking
about
about?
the
let's
willpower.
go back to the Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we
Very
do about like I'm thinking of your links for like your coaching meetings and stuff like that. And that's like, are those gonna start getting pushed back when you're trying to tell people, hey, come join me on this, on this session and
Yeah,
now
I
the
don't.
links won't work?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I mean that's not how most people join anyhow. I'm not worried about it because if you create an event, with inside of Facebook and you put the link in there, that should be okay, right? Because that's the whole point of it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
Well, should be. Yeah. Word.
So I'm
I mean, but
doing that.
sorry, Chris. I was saying, like, it just pushes us to make sure that we're constantly putting out content that is in obviously keep the audience on the platform, but making sure that it's educational without having to drop a link in there. Like, really be able to provide that 30 seconds, 60 seconds worth of good content that educates and pushes your brand without being that pushy salesperson that we all don't want to
Yeah,
be.
we talk about developing our product in the training, and part of the product is our brand, and that's the part that a lot of real estate agents miss. They're just so forcing that they're a realtor down your throat. It's like maybe talk about your brand a little bit more, and but on the flip side, like what we're doing with our reels and our B2B stuff now on our team, creating content for local businesses and local areas, and at the end of it be like, oh, by the way, if you want to move to or from, reach out to the Homes by Cusi team. That's elevated way of reaching out and creating content the way that they want without pushing outside links or real estate stuff too hard, right? So I'm never afraid of these changes when people panic and freak out, which happens in our career all the time. It's a scarcity mindset. The more people panic, the more I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity to get better, right? That's how you have to
I,
look at
I
it.
like to see the opportunity in every situation like that. When the buyer brokerage agreement was required, I was like, good, less
Yeah,
buyers are
so
going to
what?
be using several agents. I get them to lock in with me early on instead of them thinking they can, use 5 people and then just whoever happens to show them the one that they liked. in this situation, I'm actually thinking, well, if people can't put the links, it's going to, you know how a lot of agents like to put like 3 pieces of information. They don't even put the price because they want you to comment and like ask them all these questions.
Yeah.
And you're like frustrated when you're looking. You're like, can you just tell me what it costs so I know if I even have a question?
I do that.
So, but if you can't do a link, there's going to be questions. And now people are going to engage and they're not going to be as frustrated with the way you're approaching it because you can't give them the link because Facebook kicks it off. So maybe you'll get more engagement out of it.
Yeah, anytime there's any type of switch or change, people seem to just panic right away and freak out. But the reality, I mean, I don't mean this in any bad way, but if you really look up those people's numbers, their business-wise, they're never, the people who think that way very rarely produce at a high level, right? Because they have a very limited way of looking at things. And I'm trying not to be condescending when I say that. But it's kind of true because people who, I always use the phrase, winners find a way, losers find a way out. Winners will always find a way to adapt to some situation. I was on a Zoom the other day with Brian Buffini. Some of you OG realtors might know that name and some of you may not. But he was like the original like Tom Ferry, right? And big real estate coach. Him, Ben Kenny, huge mega agent. They were on the line and they were talking about there's a big opportunity for us, and listen how they speak is really powerful, by the way. So like, there's a big opportunity for us. What's the opportunity? That from now until the end of the year, we're going to have the biggest mass exodus of licensed individuals leaving our industry, right? And no, they're not celebrating people, losing their license, right? They're celebrating people who shouldn't have had the license in the first place, like getting out and then leveling up the community and providing more opportunities for us.
That's a fair not observation, a perspective that they shouldn't have never had their license, right? People saw, oh my God, the market's getting crazy. Let me go get my license and get a slice of that. But what they were doing is they were jumping into it for opportunity in that very moment, but they weren't serving their clients at the best of the capacity that they should have been serving. They were just there for that wave. They were there for the wave. That's it.
It's also you nailed it. And kind of the switch gears slightly on that. That's why I've always kind of struggled with those real estate models who are built on recruiting instead of producing, because it's attracting the wrong type of person in the way they're thinking into the game or into that particular broker, instead of doing better at your business and recruiting naturally and organically to go out there and just create like a monetary bonus for bringing people under you. Who are you attracting, in that world, right? And that kind of goes hand in hand with, like, if the market is easy, quote unquote, people flood it, but people flood in. But who are these people flooding in when it's easy? Are they really elevating the game? No. So the way you elevate this business is when the onesie twosies that like cherry pick here and here, and the ones that I'll do it for less with lower quality service, and the ones who just print out MLS sheets on the showings and they do a bunch of U-turns and they don't know where anything is and they don't know any information about the property.
I know the U-turn. The U-turn.
Next me on the U-turn.
Listen, okay? You want to talk about that? You should not be doing U-turns at this level.
I do U-turns everywhere I go in my life, not just at work. I'm Jen, the U-turn Konikoff. I'm always on a phone call and I always miss my turn. That's just it.
Okay, but when you're
exits,
turn,
I do that too. But when you're, hear me out. That's fine. But when you're with a buyer, you should know your routes, right? Like, I hate to say it.
I don't know my route in my own life.
But how do you think they feel about that, right? Like they're following you.
I make a joke out of it.
Yeah, like
I always say, without my map, I'm nothing. Like, I put my map in to go home. My daughter will be like, Mommy, you don't know how to get home? I do, but I want the best route with the least amount of traffic, and I'm just going to mindlessly follow my map.
Yep.
It makes it mindless to me so that I can be doing 20 other things.
Yeah, but you're not showing homes at that point. That's what I'm talking about. When you're with a client, it's different, right?
Yeah, but you still get calls while you're almost waiting for the opportunity for a 10-minute drive to the next property because you have something pending that you
That is true. That is true. Yes, that 10-minute drive is when you can get kind of
you all of a sudden you're on a call with someone at title, you're on the call with somebody else, and then you have to make a U-turn.
Yep.
Like shit. I miss the entrance.
When's the last time you guys had a buyer in your car?
Oh God, no.
Oh God. Actually, I do know, actually, but go ahead.
Well, I can tell you when I had a buyer that really wanted to be in my car, and I found 20 different ways to try to be like, I don't want you in my car. But it's the first time was, hey, we just met, right? That was a little bit awkward. Like, I don't know you yet. Like, I don't really want you in my space. The second time wouldn't have been so awkward, but then I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
This person had a second person with them. Now I got car seats I got to get rid of and Cheerios I got to vacuum. So now I was like, now I got to clean my car, right? And then I'm like, they're going to see everything I'm doing, the flustering part of me in the car in between the showings. I need to be on my phone. They're going to see me like, like hustling and bustling inside instead of that cool, calm, and collective once I open that car door and shut it. So I turned them down on being in the same car like 3 times. Like I found a reason why it just didn't make sense. And then one time it did, and I had to do it.
I mean, I approach it from a liability standpoint. You drive your car, I drive mine, and there's no liability for myself, my office, for you, nothing.
We also have kids. Our cars are usually messy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So bad.
Yeah, like especially if you're high D person. I bet you Jen's car's
have to know ahead of time.
But JD and I are we have similar. Jen's high I personality. Actually, not high I. Your personality for a clean car is probably more of an analytical mindset. What's your disc, Jen?
I'm an ID.
Are you sure? Yeah, I know you're an ID, but there has to be
an ID. I
bet you're a high ISD. You're 3 things in one. You're not a C.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
I don't get along with C's too well.
I also know how I know how to mirror. I know how to adjust and turn things on and off. I know my audience very well. So I feel like sometimes people may have a different perception of me because of I'm able, especially in a professional setting, I can quickly pivot and, all right, turn it on. Let's go. Versus somebody who may not know their audience and not know that that person does not take well to a boisterous kind of, a person. They like even tones. That's just my vibe.
That's your vibe. I do want to talk about that U-turn thing for a second. Yeah, that's fair. Because we got to wrap it up. We actually have to go. All 3 of us are going to a house to look at something.
Yes, we
are. So we got
to
go. But I kind of want to address. I want to address something on the route thing. So because I noticed, I've noticed people don't do this, and I'm not trying to act like I'm all knowing, but it's just things that I see. So when you're putting together the route with your client, first the route is to benefit their, where they're starting and where they want to end up, right? Like you do the first house close to where they're at, and then the last house close to where they're going to be. So you ask them, where you coming from? Where you going after? Okay. Quick little nugget. You want to make it easy for them. Like, oh, this was enjoyable. I got home quick. I got to the first one quick. How the less stressful something is for something, the better their experience is. And that naturally correlates with the person they're around. Just a quick tip there. But what I do is like, if I know that there's a gate at these places, we have to be aware that at least here in Southeast Florida, if you're not familiar, there's a lot of gated communities, but there's also a lot of resident only gates that you can't get into. And a lot of times the GPS will take you to the resident only gate. And then you pull in there with your client, you're like, oops, follow me as I turn around. Right. So the play is if you know you're going to a gated community, just ask the agent, just be like, hey, which gate should I go to? And they'll tell you, right? That's key number 1, right? I also pull everything up in a map and I'll go from, I know this is a much, and I don't do this much anymore because I know the area, but back in the day, I would load up each house from house, like house 2 to house 3, and I'll load it up in a map app and just get a visualization overhead of like, okay, where should I be turning, what to expect, whatever, because I want it to be a smooth thing. I don't want to make any U-turns. And then I'll go from house 3 to 4, just kind of visually see where it is, where the U-turns at, where is it, what's happening here. That's one thing. I know it might be much. That's just my personality. And I just want to give them a good experience. And then the last part of it, you can't ask people where they want to meet. You kind of got to dictate it, right? So I've seen people go, hey, where do you want to meet? Where do you want to meet at this time? Or whatever. Like they'll just ask. Instead of just don't ask, they're asking you to take the lead, right? You're the prize now. You're the prize person. They prize framed you. You can say, hey, meet me at Publix at this time. I'll be in the white whatever car you're in, right? And they're like, oh, that was easy. The less thinking they have to do, the less stress, the less everything stressful, the better the experience for them is. And that's how you get them to never cheat on you. Just these little tiny like things, you know? Just my opinion. Am I wrong? Am I
I'll
right? You can
definitely
tell me
give
I'm
you
wrong.
the gate thing. I think the gate thing is very relevant. Don't hit
Yeah.
the resident only gate. That definitely is not a great look when you get there and realize, and they're rolling down their window going, "Hey, what's going on?" And then you're like, "Oh, I'm at the wrong gate." Like that is awkward. I'll give you that one on the U-turn.
What do you
You
give
take
me that one?
Chris.
The rest is not good.
Well, on showing,
Yeah, the other U-turn thing.
well, yeah, that too. I'm with you on JD. But the showing time, if anybody is not familiar with showing time, there's a smart route button at the bottom, and you can click it, and it will give you the smart route at the bottom. You can see the map, put satellite view, so you can see and really observe. But then switch it around if your person is leaving from a different direction. Of course, you want to make it as accommodating as possible to them. Know where, it's like what Chris said. Ask them, are you coming from work and you're in this area? Or are you coming from home and you're in this area, so that I can, make it as convenient and seamless for you as possible. But yes, using tech to leverage that all day. I do not pull up a Google map. I go straight to the showing time at the bottom, smart route, and then I zoom.
And then there's always a listing that throws you for a loop because they can't accommodate your timing, and all of a sudden you're doing one of these.
I tell the buyers that. I tell them like, hey, this one, they couldn't accommodate this time, but they could accommodate today. So we're gonna make it work because I know you really want to see it. So you're gonna feel like we're backtracking and then we're moving forward. Just wanted to let you know. Yeah, expectations.
Okay, so let's wrap it up with that because we got to go. And this is more directed to sellers because I work primarily with sellers and my phone's going crazy, but it's okay. We'll deal with that later. Sellers often, like if there's a book appointment at say whatever time and like 2 minutes go by or, there's some sellers who are really on it. Oh, it's 4:02. Where are they? Or they're going to be here in 10 minutes, right? And the thing is, you got to understand from the other side of the coin. Like, so a real estate agent will probably like schedule, I don't know, 6 or 7 properties ish. Jen does 4, but you can, you're doing a certain number of properties.
I did 10 the other day.
Yeah. So let's just say hypothetically there's 6 let's just say 6 properties, right? And when a real estate agent schedules these appointments, they can't control a lot of things in there. They can't control if their buyer was late, if their buyer had to pee halfway through, if a seller had to cancel on them, and then had to move their appointment up. There's a lot of while we're actually in the process, we're moving things around to accommodate. And it's just sometimes it's just too much to like just stay on it exactly. Like sometimes you get behind a train, sometimes you get stuck in a school zone. There's all these things that can happen. Sometimes a buyer is in a house for way too long. Or a listing agent's late. Sometimes a buyer's in a house for 5 seconds, and sometimes they're in it for an hour, right? And so you're kind of like, okay, they're staying in this house long. I don't want to rush them. Now you got to call the houses after that and push them all back. But if you call the next house, they're like, oh no, we can't accommodate that time. You have to come at this time. Then you're adjusting the schedule on the fly often, right? So for my seller clients, I'll tell them like, listen, they're probably coming. Just give it a window. Give it like a 45-minute window in whatever. Because I've had a particular seller recently that was very much like that. Like they wanted like 3 confirmations up until the day. Hey, are they definitely coming? They say, yeah, cool. All right, it's an hour away. Are they definitely coming? Cool. Are they going to be here in 10 minutes? And I would have this talk with him over and over. Like, listen, they're probably going to be there. They may be late. They might not show up. I will definitely confirm with all that. I just want you to be mentally prepared that this is how the thing works. That's just how it is. Just kind of.
There's a high cancellation rate, a high schedule change. And we just have to roll it. This is what we do in the car in between the showings. Yes. Is figuring out the next one. And that's why we make U-turns.
Yep.
Yeah.
The car is hectic. I'm telling you, that car door closes and it's like. Psh,
and then in our passenger seat, there's like 7 dead trees in our passenger side with MLS sheets. Right?
Oh, yep.
Definitely.
File folders.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about you guys. I don't throw them away either right away because I'm always concerned or fearful. Like I'm like, I might need some information here, right? To sit there for a bit.
Notes on mine too, so I'll take notes.
Me too.
of what they pointed out, what they felt was, like a key item. I don't know. Anything that I can find that I can write down based off of my observations of their reactions or something that I found while I was there, I'll write it down, and I won't throw that paper away until I am like closed with this buyer. Like these
I'll
are
put
like
a star if they like it. Like, and that's how I'll know. Like, oh, they like this one. Yeah, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, remember the one with the big tree in the backyard? So if they noted something that they really liked, yeah, I'll put really nice big tree in the backyard and see if it's an easy way to reference back to what they liked.
Mm-hmm.
JD, God, my phone's going crazy. JD, you actually reminded me of something that I do that I didn't share yesterday in the class. I actually rate them. So like if we get to the first property, obviously that was their favorite, right? But then we get to the next one, I'll be like, okay, which one you like more, this one, that one? And then I'll put in the first page 2, and then the second page 1. And then the third one, like, okay, out of the 3, which one's your favorite? And I actually rate them ongoing as I go. Right. I know it's a weird thing. It's just something I do, I guess, just to occupy my brain.
No, I did the same thing.
And okay, you're there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then sometimes too, like for instance, yesterday Andy was like, "Ooh, this one's completely out. Don't even give this one. Like, I'm not even rating this one. But out. Don't even. I don't want to see this one ever again." Like, he was very aggressive about it. I was like, "Okay,
okay,
okay."
Are you talking about Andy?
Yes.
JD, I handed off Andy to Jen, just so you know.
Oh, I know. We've talked.
Okay, you guys
gone through it. Yeah.
Okay.
We were talking about, I do the stars.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they don't like something, I don't throw that away from the file, because sometimes they don't remember that we saw it and that they hated it. And it'll somehow end up back on their, oh, there's a price reduction. Like, hey, I want to go see this one. And then I can go back and be like, we already saw that one and you hated it. So I definitely keep I keep a file until they're either not buying anymore, have gone under contract, or something. But I end up with this fat manila folder of all the listings that we ended up going to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I have way too many file folders back here.
That's actually a kind of cool closing gift. Maybe it just nothing too fancy. You can just hole punch all the ones you saw and put it in a binder, right? And be like, hey, just so you know, this is all the properties we sold, just for memory's sake or something. I don't know. It's an easy gift to put together.
Our journey together.
Yes.
Remember,
like a scrapbook.
Yeah.
At the end,
yeah, that's not in my
selfie. And we're like, our journey together, JD and buyer.
Yeah, that's not in my DISC or whatever. I don't scrapbook or do any of those things.
No.
I hand those over.
These we hate doing things that we feel is a waste of time and doesn't make, like, you and I were like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I spending time scrapbook? Like, what? I have other things I got to do. You know what I mean?
I don't do I'm really bad with creative stuff. I had to do a Dalmatian shirt for my daughter one time for school. And I was like, I bought a Cricut, because I was like, I'm going to use this so much as a mom now. So I bought a Cricut and I had to iron them on. It was 3 hours of my time.
Yeah.
I was like, I would have paid $50 on Amazon to have just bought a Dalmatian shirt.
That's a high D personality. Again. I'll just pay to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got you there. All right, guys, we went over. We actually have to meet at this property now.
Okay.
So, let's get out of here. Say, all right. Okay, bye, everyone. If you made it this far, bye.
Bye.
If you made it this far, bye.